Welcome to More Than Words, a podcast about treating the whole child, brought to you by the Reading and Language Learning Center. I'm your host, Tristan, and today I'm joined by Jacobo Diaz to talk about living with dyslexia. Hello, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. And you?
I'm fabulous. We're excited to have you here. I think this is a
Yeah.
great topic to chat about. So,
Yeah.
why don't you just start by introducing yourself? Tell us a little bit about who you are and all of that.
Sure. So, Jacob. Usually, it's easier to call me.
Yeah.
I I'm currently living in London. I've been living all around the world, really, with my family. Canada, London, Singapore, and when I was younger, around 9, I was diagnosed with dyslexia. Ever since, I've been, adapting my school life, and everything around it, around dyslexia. I went through the intervention process back in Canada. I went through one in Gillingham, and yeah, now I'm a student, developing a project to do with dyslexia. And yeah, dyslexia has been quite a big part of my life ever since I was struggling in school with especially language and but really in general as well. And after getting some support and going through Warren Gillingham, yeah, it's much better to do with school.
Yeah.
And now I focus more, encounter more the positives to do with dyslexia. So that's
Yeah.
good.
That's awesome. Cool. So, how did you start out? Like, how did you find out that you had dyslexia? And like, when did you find out?
Yeah, so I was 9 when I was living in Canada, and had been struggling for, I want to say, 3, 4 years now, with, yeah, mainly reading, spelling, the classic things, but also in school in general. Thankfully, my mom had a friend that was working in a dyslexia school specifically for dyslexics, and she suggested that I went to a educational psychologist and see if I had dyslexia. Um, so at 9, I was diagnosed, and yeah, I mean, I guess the reason for that, it was kind of clear that I was struggling with school in general for a while now,
Yeah.
um, and thankfully, yeah, my parents had a guiding figure
Right.
towards being diagnosed.
Yeah. And so you said you were mainly struggling with school. Was there like a specific subject or anything that was
Yeah.
harder for you?
Uh, and really at the beginning it was more English language and
Right.
but after, and also history as well. It's quite a lot
Mhm.
of writing and everything. But
Yeah.
after a while, it kind of I began to struggle with everything, just because reading and spelling is kind of connected with everything in school. So
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. And so did once you finally like learned that there was something that was making you learn a different way and that was like there was a reason for your struggling, did you finally feel like relief? How'd you feel?
Yeah, definitely. It was a
Yeah.
big relief. Not only because there was a reason for it, but also because there was a way to improve. It wasn't like I was going to be struggling with that forever.
Yeah.
If I put in the extra work, which I definitely needed compared to some other students, I could, yeah, be at the same level as them and not struggle as much with dyslexia.
Yeah.
So definitely a relief in terms of, wow, there's a solution for this,
Yeah.
which was good.
That's awesome. And I'm glad you looked at it that way too, because I think sometimes you don't necessarily feel like there's a solution. Like you're little, so you're just like, oh, okay, like there's a reason I'm
Yeah,
different, or what have you, like however people decide to look at it. But that's a great way
yeah,
to view it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
And you mentioned that you had intervention in Canada. So you
yeah.
did attend therapy. So how was that? Did you like it? Was it easy? What's the deal?
So I went to lessons kind of once a week for around a year and a half,
Okay.
and it was so I encountered two different, I guess, tutors or teachers that I went with, and my experience kind of varied.
Mm,
A big part of the enjoyment was to do with the person that was teaching me.
yeah.
Um, so with one of them, it was amazing. But with the other, I didn't really enjoy the individual lessons as much, but I kind of um, I struggled quite a bit in school that I focused on, yeah, even though sometimes it took a while and it was quite repetitive. I focused on keep going continuously through the process, and thankfully my parents, yeah, pushed me in that direction
Yeah.
to get some help. But the enjoyment of the lessons was, when it was done properly, or when there was, a good teacher behind, was, yeah, very enjoyable. That's the
Yeah.
word.
Yeah. Well, that's good. It is, I feel like a lot of things, especially with school, is like very much teacher based. If someone, because learning can be fun, but sometimes like as adults, we like forget that learning can be fun and we just are like, well, you
Yeah,
got to do it. So I'm glad you
yeah,
had at least one, like you said, teacher slash tutor, someone that was making it an enjoyable process for you.
yeah.
Yeah. So, like you said before, you were struggling in school and you started struggling in more areas. So, once you found out you had dyslexia and you were working with people to kind of like improve, what happened in school after that?
Uh, from a social point of view, I dyslexia always made me struggle. I think many people kind of view the academic struggles of dyslexia, but sometimes miss the impact that it has on your confidence.
Mhm.
Um, Afterwards, yeah, when I was diagnosed and I went back to school, for the next, I guess, half a year or a year, I didn't really tell anyone about it to
Yeah.
like kids or people in my grade. But teachers knew, and they supported me in lessons, especially. They knew, I guess, what I was going through, so
Right.
um, they they kept that in mind. But then also, around a year after I was diagnosed, I moved to London, and that was kind of a fresh start for me. I could be more open or about my dyslexia now, so it wasn't really something that I was hiding. Um, New friends, new people, new school. So yeah, I could really just be open about it. And
Right.
ever since here in London, I don't really have an issue with it.
Well, that's awesome. And
Yeah,
so you said your teachers know, and do you have to like now that like you said now that you're in London, do you have to advocate for yourself in the classroom? Do you go up and tell them at the beginning of the year like, hey, this is the deal, like I'm going to need support in these ways?
yeah. At the beginning of the year, really, if I have a new teacher, um, definitely have to have that discussion. Kind of awkward at the beginning, but it helps a lot throughout the year, just because, yeah. For example, reading stuff aloud, not really comfortable with doing that,
Right.
or it can be impactful maybe in like some homeworks or work that I do. So I have that discussion. But here in London, compared with Canada, I don't know how it is in the US, but I feel like there's a lot more people in my class that are dyslexic. It's quite a bit more open
Okay.
compared with Canada. It's something kind of normalized here in London.
Wow.
Um, yeah. So I feel, for example, when I came to London in the first, I don't know, month or so, I had a friend that we already spoke about it openly together, and it was something. Yeah, I guess since you're little here in the UK, it's, yeah, something normal for kids. So from a social point of view, it's not as much of, yeah, judging
Right.
between classmates. It's quite normal.
Wow. Well, that's fantastic. I'm glad you have that experience because I'm sure a lot of kids here in the States can say, like, you know what, I felt like I was going to be judged if I said it. And I'm sure people have, like, you said kind of in Canada, it was a similar
Yeah,
experience. Um,
yeah,
no, I don't know a ton of people from Canada that like have told me that they have dyslexia, so I can't speak to that, the
yeah,
comparison between the two. But I'm sure in the States we have a hard time like getting the schools to say dyslexia most of the time. So I'm glad you
yeah,
have a better experience with it. And we're all working
yeah,
towards, advocating that people know dyslexia is a real thing. And, we can work towards improving the way people are reading, writing, and feeling about, like you said, like the social aspect too.
yeah.
So you're at school and dyslexia is like, impacting your work. So can you give some examples of how that has come about and like maybe before being diagnosed and after being diagnosed. Can you give us examples of how it's impacted your work?
Sure. I mean, after being diagnosed and after going through intervention, it's definitely impacted me much less in school.
Yeah.
But before being diagnosed, I especially remember two main things. I'm guessing it's the classic things, but really spelling everything phonetically. Really, I didn't really have any knowledge. Also, since English is my second language, it might have been a little bit harder for me, but that was a big aspect. And then to do with reading, um, my pace was extremely slow
Yeah.
when reading. Uh, I was young, very so I can't really remember to the detail,
Right.
but
Of course.
yeah, after going through the intervention, it was definitely much easier. To this day, I've in school I definitely come across some struggles sometimes, but it's much better than before.
Yeah. What are the things that you do now that help you like succeed?
So here, we have some, I don't know, adaptations in the lessons. I can use a laptop, um, in history and really most subjects that are not really like sciences or or math. But that definitely helps with the speed at which you write. For example, in exams, it's quite slow to think about things and then write them down. So on a laptop, that definitely helps.
Mhm.
Um, and then outside of school, things that I read online and everything, something that's like I've come across in the past, I don't know, yeah, year, and is extremely helpful is it's called Speechify. So
Speechify.
it basically it reads out, for example, emails or things that you read on a website. It reads them
Oh,
out to you, and it highlights the things as you go, so you can kind of follow along and also hear it at the same time.
oh, that's
So
awesome.
I've definitely used that a lot lately. But in school, yeah, like I said, I don't struggle as much now, but laptop is definitely useful. And then here in London, we also get extra time for exams. I don't know if that happens in the US.
Yeah,
Yeah, so that's also good. But yeah.
that's awesome. And yeah, there are a couple things that are similar. In the US, there's like different plans that you go in and say these are like the things that we're going to need, and
Mhm.
teachers and parents like basically discuss what the accommodations will be. But that longer tests is one of them, and laptops for writing and stuff is another one.
Yeah.
So it's awesome to hear that you have those accommodations as well. Moving over to the things you feel you excel at doing, and especially what you think dyslexia maybe helps you with.
Uh, when I went through intervention, I heard from my teacher that dyslexics think in pictures. I
Oh,
definitely I don't know. I definitely, well, from my experience, agree with that. Um, but something that I come across quite often, also with a project that I've been doing, is, I guess, problem solving and the speed at which you come up with ideas for me.
yeah.
If I have an issue, I have 20,000 ideas that pop into my mind at once. Um, and I guess I've heard about the positives of dyslexic thinking, but I can't really compare with someone that's not dyslexic. Just I don't know. I
Right.
don't know what it is to think inside of their brains. But yeah, um, definitely to do with problem solving, coming up with ideas, um, and creativity. I guess you could say,
Yeah.
with yeah different situations.
Yeah, that's awesome. Problem solving is something that we try to be taught early, but it doesn't always work for everyone. So I'm glad you have that skill.
Yeah.
And so if you could go back in time, tell your younger self like a message of maybe hope, what would you say?
I'd say three main things. Main one is that was something that helped me since the beginning, knowing that there's a solution, or that even if you put in the extra work that you might need, um, you will not struggle as much. I mean, now I don't really come across many struggles about to do with dyslexia in school.
Mhm.
That would be one. Uh, the second one would be with my experience of things I'm doing outside of school. I don't think you encounter the negatives or struggles of dyslexia as much outside of school. Obviously,
Okay.
as school is not really made to teach dyslexics, it might feel like a lot at the beginning, but so far outside academically academic subjects in school, I don't encounter the negatives as much. And the third one would probably be um, from a social aspect, just to find someone, and this for me was a teacher in Canada that understood, and that took it into consideration when uh, one being in lessons. Because I guess it didn't really affect me a lot outside of lessons, although I was, judged by other classmates, but definitely someone that uh, is okay with it. I guess at a younger age, kids will kind of pick on each other a bit more, but finding that friend for me, or teacher that was supportive, is really helpful.
Yeah.
And just something that really really helped me out was going through the intervention and getting all the struggles and not really encountering them as much afterwards.
That's awesome. And I'm glad you found, like a friend or a supporter in your teacher. That's really important. So,
Yeah.
on that subject, what do you wish that your teachers would have known about dyslexia? Maybe the ones that weren't as supportive.
Yeah. I feel like teachers might know quite a bit about academic struggles, about
Mhm.
dyslexia, and how to support them in lessons, but they don't necessarily know what it is to experience dyslexia in a classroom,
Mm.
from once again a social or self-esteem point of view of the student. So I guess, even though it might be tricky, obviously, sometimes would be to put yourself in the student's shoes, when doing things in lessons, and see how they could be feeling or be affected by what you're doing, from a social point of view.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. One more dyslexia focused question, which is, what does dyslexia mean to you personally?
uh I guess dyslexia to me is something that made me struggle quite a lot when I was younger, but also, like you said before, it's a different way of thinking that is not uh that is that society is not specialized.
Right.
For example, yeah, in school, they don't really focus on teaching dyslexics just because it might not be the majority of students.
Mhm.
Um, but it is another way of thinking that has its negatives. But once you target them or challenge the negatives, there are so many positives that at a younger age I didn't really um, find.
Mhm.
I guess in school, or what you do in school through subjects, you can't really identify the positives either. Um, I guess what has helped me to find the positive things that come with dyslexia has been things outside of school, and meeting with people outside of school. That's definitely something that has opened my eyes. But yeah, it's a different way of thinking that is not really that society doesn't specialize on, I would
Right.
say.
Yeah. And hopefully, we can all spread the word about dyslexia, and people can,
Yeah, yeah,
jump on board.
I'm sure we will.
Yeah. And so, lastly, we heard you're working on an app. So, can you talk about that?
Sure. So it's been a little bit over 2 years now since I started, working on this app. The idea is to take the intervention process that was the main thing that helped me with dyslexia, and overcoming their struggles, and putting it on an app in a digital format that takes the activities and exercises that you do with a tutor and puts it in short bite-sized lessons with gamification features around it. We plan also to bring the intervention process to every dyslexic. Something that I realized when I was going through the intervention was that two main things, main one being the big cost. Thankfully, my parents were able to put me into tutoring,
Right.
but many dyslexics don't have the opportunity to do that. So with that, we're trying to put the intervention process in an app that is fun for all dyslexics and that allows every dyslexic to go to get the support that they need for their struggles.
That's awesome.
That was the main mission.
Yeah.
And since we started, we've done some pilot testings. We've iterated the app quite a few times because it really was not perfect at all at the beginning. We've done 4 iterations, and now we've almost finished the funding round to help us develop all the app and take it to the next level.
That's awesome. And so what is the app called?
Activate. So
Activate.
I came up with a name just after developing, starting to develop the idea. I guess it's kind of what many dyslexics need, just an activation of their positive sides of dyslexia.
Right. That's very cool. And so you said it's called Activate and you're working on getting all of the funding and the stuff solidified. So where can people go find any details on it if people want to help fund and stuff like that?
So we have a landing page that we just made a new one. It's called activate-learning.com.
Okay.
So that's where they can sign up to participate in the next pilot and give us feedback to continue improving
Awesome.
the app, and learn a bit more. Contact us if they are interested.
That's awesome. Yeah. Anything else you want to share about the app in particular?
We've been putting quite a lot of work into it. Been able to build a good team, and hopefully we can make the mission come true in the coming years and help as many dyslexics as possible. We're trying to bring the intervention to all and do it in a fun way. We'll see.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like it's a fantastic mission. So, I mean, we're rooting for you guys. Yeah.
Thank you.
No. And anything else you wanted to add about, living with dyslexia or anything else for the day?
I'd say, I don't know if they're younger dyslexics or maybe parents that want to share this. As a young student with dyslexia, maybe under 10 years old or so, it's very difficult to see dyslexia as a positive thing. You go through many things in school and you don't see a solution. You might, even if you don't know that you're dyslexic yet, it might even be worse. But as you get older and as you go, I guess, through the school system, you not only adapt around dyslexia and the way that you think more, but you begin to encounter the positives a lot more. So to parents, I would just say it's definitely a struggle at the beginning, but have patience and hopefully you'll see it as a positive soon.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here today. This was amazing to hear. Yeah, it was amazing to hear your story and also about this really cool app that you're working on. Such an amazing mission. And also the fact that you're working on an app and you're still in high school is really crazy. You know what I mean? I don't know many people that can say that. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks again.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much to the audience for listening. Make sure to subscribe and leave us a little rating and review. It helps other folks find the podcast, and we'll chat with you next time.